This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Sai. So we have a very interesting question in halacha. We know there are two readings of the Megillah, Megillah Delilah, Megillah Diyayim, and according to most Rishonim, the Iker Megillah is during the day, and that is why the Shita of Tosfos and the Rosh and the Ran, that since the Iker Parsume Nisa is B'Yayim V'Loi B'Laila, like it says, one of the rayas they bring is because in Parak Chaf Beis of Tehillim it says, Ekra Yoimam V'Loi Saneh V'Laila V'Loi Dumiyali, and also the Iker Suda is B'Yayim. So therefore, the Iker laning of the Megillah is B'Yayim, and therefore we make even though we make a Shachianu at night, we make a Shachianu during the day as well. Just the Rambam holds that we don't repeat the Shachianu, and since you made a Shachianu at night, you make it during the day. That's the opinion of the Mechaber, and the Rambam says it's not any worse than if somebody made a Shachianu on the reading of the Megillah. It's no worse than if somebody made a Shachianu on the building of a sukkah, then he will not make a Shachianu the first time he sits in a sukkah. Likewise, if one made a Shachianu on the Kriya Delilah, he's not going to make a Shachianu again on the Kriya Diyayim. And Tosfos says no, the Kriya of the Yom is a much more important mitzvah, as the Iker mitzvah, so the Shachianu of the night won't cover it. Okay, be it as it may, the laning of the day is more important than the laning of the night. Ad Kedei Kach, that many Achronim hold, the Shagas Aryeh, the Noid Behuda, that the laning in the night is not a, Mordechai and Esther never were Masakein such a mitzvah. They were only Masakein to lay in the Megillah during the day, and then the Rabbanan were Masakein to lay it at night. Meaning the Kriya of the Megillah B'Yayim would be Midivrei Nevi'im. B'Laila would only be Midrabbanan. And last year we gave a shiur about 7 or 8 nafkaminas between the fact that the night is Midrabbanan and the day is Midivrei Nevi'im. I'll just say one of them, and that is if you're Mesupik, if you lay in the Megillah or not. So in the night, if you're Mesupik, if you lay in the Megillah, Safek Rabbanan L'Kula. During the day, where it's Midivrei Nevi'im, Divrei Kabbalah K'divrei Torah Damya, and Safek L'Chumra. Okay, that would be one nafkamina. But today I want to speak about another shaila, and I believe some of you may have some insight into this, and that is, let's say a person is in a compromised situation, and they can only hear one laning. Should they hear the night laning, or should they hear the day laning? This is a very interesting shaila.
What we said, what kind of a shaila is it?
So you would say, what kind of shaila is that? The night mitzvah is only midrabanan.
Yeah,
but you might not make it to the day.
The night mitzvah is midrabanan, and the day mitzvah is midivrei nevi'im. So l'chayra, it's a pashat shaila. You should wait. You should wait for the day because the day is far superior. But Donald is saying, and even though he wasn't at the shiur yesterday, he must have ruach hakodesh, right? That yesterday we gave a very interesting shiur, very interesting subject, the machlokes Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi. Somebody's in jail, and they could tell the warden, let me out for one day. What day should they be let out? So the opinion of the Chacham Tzvi was that he brought a raya from the Gemara in Menachos. The Gemara wanted to know if you can only bring a carbon musaf today, which is more mekudash, or a carbon. Excuse me, you could bring a carbon musaf today, or a carbon tamid tomorrow. So the musaf is more mekudash, the tamid is more tadir. So Gemara has a shaila, which one comes first? But ask the Chacham Tzvi, what do you mean? Do the first mitzvah, grab the first mitzvah, in ma'avir nala mitzvahs. So Chacham Tzvi says, no, you wait for the better mitzvah, and if tadir is more important, you're going to wait. Chacham Tzvi's svara was, wait for tadir. On the other hand, the opinion of the Radvaz, Siman Yud Gimel, was, mitzvah habali yadcha al tach mitzena. And if you look in the Mishnah Berurah, I may have misspoke yesterday, I said the Mishnah Berurah doesn't offer a psak. He does. In Siman Sadi, the Mishnah Berurah quotes the Radvaz, that if somebody's in jail and they can be let out one day, we say mitzvah habali yadcha al tach mitzena. That being the case, I happened to see this morning in the Sefer Kovetz Halachos, which are Piskei Halachos of Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, compiled by Rav Daniel Usher Kleinman. He brings down that l'chora, this shaila, of which, if you can only hear the Megillah once, the night or the day should be dependent on the machlokes Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi. I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. Yesterday we spent a whole shiur learning about this machlokes. We even applied it to Purim, and here's a much better application to Purim. You can only hear the Megillah once. Should you hear the night Megillah immediately? Ein ma'avir ala mitzvah. So should you wait and hear the day Megillah, which is a higher level obligation, as midivrei neviim. So l'chayra, Rabbi Kleinman writes in the footnote, it should be dependent on the machlokes, the Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi. That according to the Radvaz, we should say ein ma'avir ala mitzvah and do the drabanan immediately. And according to the Chacham Tzvi, mitzvah min hamuvchar. But what's interesting is the Aruch HaShulchan himself poses this question. The Aruch HaShulchan.
Can I just ask you?
Yeah.
Would the question be any different if the shaila was whether you're going to hear the Megillah B'tzibur or you're going to only hear the Gilain B'Yachid? In other words, the two options were I could learn the Megillah B'Yachid for sure, but with the Tzibur I probably won't have a chance to do it. I might have a chance. You want to know
Tzibur at night or Yachid during the day? That would be an extension of this. The base. First, we have to answer the shaila. To what level of precedence of the day?
Impact on
l'chayra, that would be an important factor. So he says, the Aruch HaShulchan writes in Siman Tafresh Pei Zayin Sif Gimel, l'chayra yesh nafkamina, that if you can only catch the Megillah once, if the night Megillah, if the day Megillah is the Ikar Megillah, l'chayra you should wait for the day. And according to the Rambam, who says ein ma'avir ala mitzvahs, l'chayra we should say ein ma'avir ala mitzvahs. So he says no. Even the Rambam would say, right? The Rambam paskins you only make the shechianu at night. You don't make the shechianu during the day. So, but even the Rambam would agree that ikar laning is during the day. It's just he holds you make the shechianu once. And even according to the Shita of Tosfos and the Rosh, that the Ikar laning is during the day, you could also make the case that maybe we should say in Ma'avir ala mitzvahs. So I'm not going to tell you what the Aruch HaShulchan says. But right now, the Aruch HaShulchan doesn't mention the machlokes Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi. But based on the way, at first glance, it should depend on the machlokes Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi.
What about the Rambam?
One second. So I want to share with you, if we could get insight into the Rambam for a moment. Why does the Rambam say only make a shechianu in the night and not during the day?
That's the first time you read the Megillah.
So you made the shechianu, but it's a lower level fulfillment. So the Rambam, so the Gra says it's no different than if you make a shechianu when you build the sukkah, it will cover the sitting on the sukkah. Even though there's no mitzvah to build the sukkah, the mitzvah is to sit. So too, even if the lower level mitzvah is a lower level, but the shechianu you make during the night should cover the day. That was the raya of the Rambam. So in the
shechianu during the day is for the other mitzvahs of Purim.
But that's only a side reason. But the main shechianu is for the Megillah. So the Rambam would seem to be quite clear. So in the new Sefer, there's an essay to try to defend Tosfos. In other words, isn't there a blatant kasha on Tosfos? Tosfos holds that there's a blatant kasha on Tosfos. So what if the day reading is on a higher level? The shechianu you make at night should be good enough for the day. Just like the shechianu on building the sukkah covers the sitting in the sukkah. The Rambam seems to have a very clear precedent that a shechianu on a lower level fulfillment covers of higher level fulfillment. So why would Tosfos hold you make a shechianu on the why would Tosfos hold that if you made a shechianu during the night, you repeat a shechianu during the day?
You would make a shechianu only during the day. Aren't you being mavaza the kriya?
No, there's no option. Nobody says just make a shechianu during the day. The option is just make the shechianu at night, like the Rambam. L'chayra, the Rambam is substantiated by the halacha that you can make a shechianu on building the sukkah and it covers sitting in the sukkah. So we suggested to answer Tosfos that there is a fundamental difference between making shechianu on building a sukkah covering sitting in the sukkah, and yet shechianu of the night will not cover the day. And the difference is, and this is a very clear svara, there is no mitzvah to build a sukkah. Building a sukkah is just a preparatory stage for sitting in it. So therefore, when you make the shechianu on the building of the sukkah, I'm saying, Hashem, I'm happy I've reached this occasion. Now, even though the occasion has not come in full, but this is the preparation of it. The building of it prepares you for the sitting in it. But the mitzvah of reading the Megillah at night is not a preparation for reading it during the day. It's a separate mitzvah. It's the Nevi'im said laying it during the day, and the Rabbi said laying it at night. And if I make a shechianu on the night, so I'm happy I reached the rabbinic mitzvah. But I need to make another shechianu when I reach the mitzvah of the Nevi'im. By building a sukkah is the preparation for sitting in the sukkah. So the shechianu of the building could cover the sitting, but the mitzvah of reading the Megillah at night is not a preparatory for reading it during the day. It's a new mitzvah. It's a separate mitzvah. So that's why Tosfos would hold the shechianu of the night would not cover the day. That's pshat in Tosfos.
Do we have any other shechianos that are based upon the Takanas Rabbanan as opposed to Divrei Nevi'im?
Yeah, Hanukkah, shechianu
No,
on
it's not
menorah.
Divrei Nevi'im, it's Rabbanan.
Correct. Yeah. So now the question is: so what does the Rambam hold? How could the Rambam bring an analogy from building a sukkah to sitting in a sukkah?
Mitzvah, right?
There it's a hefsher mitzvah. This is a separate mitzvah. So in the Sefer, I bring my friend who worked on the Sefer, Rabbi Aaron Jacobi. He had a very good chap and a nice chidush to answer the shita of the Rambam, and that is if you look in the Sfas Emes. The Sfas Emes says on the Lashon of the Gemara, Chayiv Adam likros es Megillah b'yom v'lishnoiso b'layla. You read it during the day. Chayiv Adam likros es Megillah b'layla v'lishnoiso b'yom. You repeat it in the day. Why does it say you repeat it? It should say Chayiv Adam likros b'layla u'v'yom. What's Chayiv Adam likros b'layla v'lishnoiso b'yom? To the point where the Gemara even has a havamina that what it means v'lishnois b'yom is that you have to learn the Mishnayos during the day. So why would the Gemara write such a strange expression? Just say Chayv al Mikros b'layla u'v'yom. So the Sfas Emes explains, and I believe the Netziv also says that even though the Ikar reading is during the day, so why were they misakin at night? You know they're misakin at night because you're not really fluent and familiar with something until you're doing it a second time. So the laning of the night is you lane it at night so that when you lane it during the day, it will be a second time, and then you'll really lane it properly.
Maybe the words so many people wouldn't come out.
So listen, this is how the Sfas Emes is reading the Gemara. That the Ikar reading is during the day. The night is only D'Rabbanan. But the purpose of the D'Rabbanan is to be a preparation for the day reading. It is a separate mitzvah, but it's to prepare. It's a hechsher mitzvah almost. It's a hechsher mitzvah for the day. That's the Rambam holds that it's precisely parallel to building a sukkah. You build a sukkah to sit in it. You lane at night to be able to read it properly during the day. Therefore, just like the shechianu of building a sukkah covers sitting in the sukkah, the shechianu of the night will cover the day. Okay, according to that.
But it's hard to imagine that the reading of the Megillah itself is a hechsher mitzvah.
It's not a hechsher mitzvah. It's a
According
mitzvah.
to Rambam it is.
No, it's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. It's a separate mitzvah d'Rabbanan. The purpose of
It's a full-fledged mitzvah.
It's a full-fledged mitzvah.
And okay.
But the purpose of it is
To
so
prepare
that
for-
when you lay during the day, it will be the second time. To the point where the Sfas Emes says that let's say someone during the day would be pater from reading the Megillah, then you wouldn't lay it at night either. Because you're only laying it at night to prepare you for the day. Let's say during the day,
You got all the Hatzalah call and you.
No, you knew from beforehand during the day,
Oh.
you're not going to be there. You're not going to be there. You have a mitzvah, you have pidyon shvuyim, you're not going to be there. You wouldn't lay it at night, according to this. So, fine. So back to our shaila. So if you can only lay the Megillah either in the night or the day, l'chayra it depends on the Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi, that the Radvaz would say, what? Laying it at night right away. And the Chacham Tzvi would say, wait for the day, which is a greater mitzvah. So Rabbi Kleinman brings in his footnotes that Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky says, no. The halacha is, you wait till the day. What about according to the Radvaz? He says, no, the Radvaz's case is different. In the case of the Radvaz, you have the opportunity to do two separate mitzvahs.
But you're not sure about the second one, right?
What?
The Radvaz.
No, the Radvaz, either I could get out of jail tomorrow, or I could wait till Yom Kippur. The Radvaz says, go out of jail tomorrow. So says Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, that's because in that case, you could do one of two mitzvahs.
But
So
you choose
the sooner mitzvah. You choose the sooner mitzvah. Why? Mitzvah haba liyadcha al tachmitzena. And the question is, do I do the mitzvah without a hiddur, or do I wait to do it better? So first of all, it's two different mitzvahs, and the shaila is either way I'm doing a good mitzvah, but I could do it better later. So then the Radvaz holds, do it right away. But in this case, it's not two different mitzvahs. It's one mitzvah, Mikra Megillah. And in the mitzvah of Mikra Megillah, the day is more important than the night, and the Radvaz may agree. Now the truth is, what do you mean it's one mitzvah? It's two different mitzvahs. It's a mitzvah of laning it at night, is midrabanan, a mitzvah of laning during the day is midrabanan neviim. But he brings it very, very nicely that according to the Sfas Emes that we said over, the night reading is only a preparatory stage for the day reading. So if, maybe the Radvaz would say, capitalize on the mitzvah, do the mitzvah right away. But that's if it's an independent mitzvah. If the whole purpose of the mitzvah is to be a service to a later fulfillment of a mitzvah in a better way, then the Radvaz would agree you should do the mitzvah later. Okay, and therefore Shmuel Kamenetsky paskins that if it's between the night and the day, you wait for the day. Now, we mentioned the Kriya during the day is for sure Midivrei Kabbalah. The Kriya at night, we mentioned the Shagas Aryeh and the Nadi that says it's Midrabanan. Not everyone agrees. The Prima Gadim says it's also Midivrei Kabbalah. The Chacham Sofer says it's also Midivrei Kabbalah. The Binyan Shomer says it's also Midivrei Kabbalah. However, many poskim, including the Mishnah Brura and the Sharat Tzion, says it's only Midrabanan. If that's the case, he brings here that Rabbi Kiva Eger holds that a Drabanan, a Dairaisa compared to a Drabanan is Mekudash. And therefore, we would wait and be Mekayim the Mekudash, then do it right away and be Mekayim the Ma'in Mavir Nala Mitzvahs. So the conclusion of this sefer, based on the Psak of Shmuel Kamenetsky, also brings from Reb Forsheimer, is that what do? Wait during the day. Lo and behold, the Aruch HaShulchan poses this question, and the Aruch HaShulchan says, Ladina, La Yavor ala Mitzvah, V'yikrena Balayla, Shehi Kaidemes, Ve'im Mavirin ala Mitzvahs, V'chein Nerali Ikar Ladina. Not like them. And they bring that down as well. But the Aruch HaShulchan doesn't quote the Radvaz, doesn't quote the Chacham Tzvi, and amazingly he holds that even though the night is not the Ikar, and as we pointed out, there are many poskim who say that it's only Rabbanon, he says do it right away. As opposed to this Sefer that argues pretty well that since the daytime laning is the Ikar laning, and it's Midivrei Neviim, and he even brings down, he quotes Aruch HaShulchan, and he says Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky says that the Aruch HaShulchan is a big chiddush, and we don't follow it.
But the Aruch HaShulchan is not necessarily saying that the nighttime is Midivrei Neviim.
Right.
He's just saying it's Kadima, that's
Right,
all.
right. So I thought
that's a big chiddush. I mean, you have a chashuv a mitzvah and a less chashuv a mitzvah. According to the Aruch HaShulchan, it wouldn't matter. You do the one Kadima, irrespective of the level of importance.
right.
That goes contrary to what most people would think, I think.
And the svara is, do it as it comes.
Anyway.
This is what you have today. You worry about tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow you'll be able to do it. So I thought this was an amazing thing. Here we had a whole shiur on it yesterday, and we did a pretty good job connecting it to Purim. And now the next day we have the most blatant example of this in the mitzvah of Kriyas Megillah itself.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.